Horticultural Consulting in Ware, New Hampshire. And I am a landscape designer. We do small installs, and Grasshoppers actually does our hardscapes, and they'll do the installs for me, but I'll do the designer. WZID winner today will get a design and the $10,000 landscape. So the design I will be doing, and what that will consist of is we will go out to the property and take some pictures, and do before and after pictures, and I'm sure you got some pictures of that, Belle. And we will do a to-scale plot plan. It's also good for homeowners that want to install themselves and plant material themselves, and most of the plant material that I use in my designs are available here at Grasshoppers. And Elaine can come down, and you can come down and talk to Elaine, and she will get you those plants. So what I do are your first initial consultation. I come out to the house, I take a look, and we decide what you want, and I get some information, do a design, and we go from there. This is one of the plot plans that I've done for a client. This is actually their whole yard. It is to scale. They can do it in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I will actually divide it up to them so it's affordable for a client to do it. We can start it in sections, or we can start with the hardscapes and the trees and shrubs, and then the subsequent years go with the perennials, the annuals, and the fillers. Or we can do it just in sections. So this is all to scale, something that's very easily readable. This one happens to be 1 inch is 10 feet. So you can actually install it yourself. T.W.I.G will actually give you information on every single plant that's in your plot plan. So if you want to sell your, if you're going to sell your house, then you can actually, it's a good selling tool. They'd be able to tell every plant that's in their landscape. I can do native gardens, I can do rain gardens, I can do any types of gardens you want, problem areas, and I take into consideration a lot of things when I design a garden. Salt from the roads, runoff from the roofs, sun, shade requirements. I use a lot of plant materials that contrast each other with different leaf colors. I don't just rely on the bloom, and I use a lot of evergreens and deciduous as well as perennials in my designs. Over here, what I do is, first of all, I visually come out, take pictures, come and take a picture of the site, and take a picture of the house or the site, and we start with a clean slate, and then I will superimpose what I feel is the right plant for the right place in these areas. And you get a pretty picture, and that's probably a Kodak moment, but it gives the client an idea of what it's going to visually look like. So that's what I do. I do visuals and I do plot plans, or either one. Some people just like to see the visuals and they can go from there, or some people like to have the scaled plot plan. And if they have the scaled plot plan, they can go out for bids, or they can have Grasshoppers install it. So that is T.W.I.G, and that's the way it grows. And you can reach us by calling area code 603-529-9634, and our website is www.twigthewayitgrows.com, and we're on Facebook. Thank you.
We're at Grasshoppers Garden Center, and they have a bunch of different Weigelias. Weigelias are a great plant because they take part shade and they take full sun. The thing with Weigelias that I like to use Weigelias for is the leaf colors. The leaf colors are variegated. We have red and we have white and green variegation. Some of them can get really tall and big, some of them can get really small, so really check the tags to make sure before you plant it that it's going in the proper place. But Weigelias are great because of that leaf color. You're not just relying on the blossoms, you are getting a leaf color as well. Think of this color, this burgundy color, against just a green plant. Think of the contrast, and think of it how it's going to visually look, because you want contrast in your plants rather than just a sea of green. So if you can buy a plant that's got both a leaf color and a nice flower, or even something that looks really good in the winter, like something that has a interesting bark. You know, go for something that's going to look visually good all 4 seasons, or at least 3 seasons. Because really, they're only going to bloom for a couple of weeks out of the year. Same with your perennials, they're only going to bloom for a couple of weeks out of the year. So you want to make sure that it looks good all year long. So get some leaf colors, get some contrast in there. Silvers always break up things, reds always break up green, white leaf plants always break up a monotony of green. Think of plants that have seed heads or grasses. Think of plants that have different textures as well. Some fine, delicate textures against a big, bold leaf texture is always nice in the landscape. Always keep in mind, though, that, you know, there are full sun plants, there's part shade plants, and there's, you know, full shade plants. So you really want to combine them to that, and you always want to keep your width and your height in mind. You don't want an overgrown plant that you're going to have to maintain. Get the proper plant for the proper space. Okay, we are here at Garden Center at Grasshoppers again. We're here with some flowering azaleas that actually look primo this time of year. The trick to azaleas is that you really want to give them as much sun as possible. They're not a full shade plant. Give them as much sun as possible, and you want to make sure that you don't expose them to northwest winds or put them on a north side of the house that's very exposed. Give them the most sun you possibly can in a southern exposure, and your azaleas will do really well. And we have some more azaleas and rhododendrons down there in bloom. There are certain rhododendrons that get huge, and then there's some that stay maybe 5 by 5. So be careful, read the tag, see what you're purchasing, see what's going to fit in that area before you go ahead and buy a rhododendron that's going to get 10 by 10 and you really want it to stay really small. You don't want to have to hack them back. The rhododendrons, we have some evergreens over here, such as boxwood. When I do a design, I always think of evergreens. Always have those structure plants first. Structure plants are important because it's going to give you that structure throughout the whole year. If you go with perennials that die back to the ground, that's fine, but have some structure plants in there. If you just have perennials, come September, the end of September, all your perennials are going to start dying back down to the ground. No structure in the landscape. I always use boxwood or some ilex, which is hollies. These are some hollies down here. Hollies are good. You don't want to plant them where you have a heavy deer population because they will get eaten by the deer. That's another thing too. You really should concentrate on certain situations. Well, geez, do I have a deer population that's going to eat my plants? Do I salt my driveway and I'm going to be putting a plant next to my driveway that may be affected by the salt? Know the salt tolerance of the plant. Elaine is very good. She'll be able to tell you. You know, and think of putting trees in your landscape as well. They've got a bunch of different trees here. You've got some different flowering trees that bloom very early. Things you see early in the spring are trees and shrubs that flower. Your perennials are just starting to rejuvenate, so you're not going to see, there is a couple of early blooming